You are now entering the Horror Sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John and Kellen, and we are also joined today by one of our gal pals, Miss Erica Shannon. Erica, welcome to the Sanctum.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. If I had a nickel for every time I said 2024 has been an amazing year for horror, I'd have like 45 cents. We're going to go ahead and make it at even 50 tonight. 2024 has been amazing for horror. And although I don't know how everyone else felt about this particular movie, I loved it. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But
hey, you can't say spoilers.
I tricked Kellen. All right. If you're playing along at home, Kellen has a keyword he's supposed to go on, and I accidentally said it twice in this one. But 50 cents, because this year's been amazing. This week's movie is based on that popular drugs out there, Ozempic, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but we're talking about 2024 sexy body horror flick, The Substance, directed by Coralie Fargeet. Sorry if that's not pronounced properly, and starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. And this is a pretty new movie. I don't even know if it's streaming yet, so there will be. It is great. So but there will be spoilers nonetheless.
Spoilers? Did you say spoilers? There's going to be.
I did.
Yeah, 2024 is The Substance, directed by Coralie Fargeet. It follows a fading celebrity, Elizabeth Sparkle, who uses black market drug that creates a younger version of herself with unexpected side effects. And that's about it. I did not like this movie. Spoilers. I have a very specific reason too, and I'm going to start there because this movie did something that crawls up my skin, and it took me out of this movie from the beginning. For those of you who know me, know that I hate ASMR, and this entire movie is an ear fest of ASMR sounds. Half of the what's the position, the audio engineer that makes the background sounds, like goes after the
Foley? Is it Foley?
Yes. Yeah. I think that all they did was give him an egg salad sandwich and eat it with a microphone stuffed into his mouth, because that's what it sounded like throughout 90% of the film. Anytime anybody, when she reaches into her stomach and pulls out that chicken leg,
oh God,
I'm like, it's just a guy eating a messy egg salad sandwich and washing it down with applesauce. I don't know how else to explain what it was, but it went up my spine to no end, and I could not focus on anything happening in this movie. Spoilers, there's scenes where they're literally naked on top of each other. Could care less, because the whole time I was trying not to gag on all the audio cues that they were putting in this movie the whole time. And speaking of the nudity, why did they have to be naked all the time? What was the point? If you've got your other self laying in the bathroom floor, eventually she makes a special room to hide. Every 7 days they have to swap, if you haven't seen the movie. But one loses consciousness, the other one gains consciousness. Instead of going in dressed, I can understand the first time she got out of the shower, she's injecting the substance. Why every time after that are you stripping down naked and just leaving your naked body in the floor? That seems impractical, even if you're putting it in another room. Like, just go in with your t-shirt and jeans on or something.
But wouldn't they have ripped? Wouldn't they have ripped off?
I mean, the first time when she splits out of her back, but after that, it's just she's just laying naked in the floor. Like, I mean, I didn't get it. It was like nudity for nudity's sake.
Oh, you mean like the maintenance phase? Like, why didn't they dress up during the? I see what you're saying. I never thought about that part. Yeah,
yeah. She just
that's
left,
true.
Demi Moore was just left naked in the floor, and then when right. Sue Margaret Qualley, when she changes, she just strips down naked and like. You literally, it's an IV in the arm. It's not like she had to be naked because the body morphed or something in between times. It was literally just. So I didn't get that. That was off-putting to me, I guess, being a girl dad. I was like, if you're gonna do it in a movie, it needs to make sense, and at a certain point, it doesn't. It just feels like you're just trying to add shock value for the sake of shock value. Same with the audio. The grotesque sounds that they used. It felt like they were just doing that to make you uncomfortable, which I get the purpose of this film is to make you uncomfortable. The impossible beauty standards of Hollywood and magazines, and that we as Americans place on women to where they feel like they've got to get their face done, get their boobs done. They need to look a certain way. They need lipo. They've got to maintain a certain look. The whole Kardashian mentality of women are supposed to look a certain way. And if they don't look that certain way, then we push them aside, which is what Dennis Quaid's character does in the movie when Demi Moore hits 50. Which Demi Moore's great casting because she has fallen into the trappings of this in her real life. So it's a good casting to have somebody that's had work done and has been chasing that beauty standard, because it's put on them from the time that they enter Hollywood. It's not like there's a certain age where all of a sudden they start. It's from the time that you enter Hollywood. There's an expectation to look a certain way. If Margot Robbie gained 30 pounds tomorrow, she would probably get fewer roles. And that's what this movie plays on. It's that obsession with a certain standard. And so I get what the movie wants to make you uncomfortable, because this has been an uncomfortable situation for women for 100 years. As long as print media has been able to put pictures of women in their magazines and books, it's been an unattainable ideology. And we've seen it before in other movies where the aging actress, ages out of the roles and starts to become more jaded about the whole industry. This movie just didn't do it for me. It didn't make me care. There was so many things in it that either didn't make sense or that, like I said, were just off-putting to me that I could care less what was happening. Dennis Quaid was fantastic as a sleazeball. I got to get that out there. Of all of the acting in this movie, which the acting's good. Demi Moore is not my favorite actress. She's always been kind of stiff to me. I wouldn't say one note, but kind of a one note type of actress. Margaret Qualley, everything I've seen her in, she's really good. So acting's good in this movie. Dennis Quaid is just fantastic as that sleazeball media executive who doesn't value people. He values what they can bring him, which is money. But again, I didn't care about anybody because there's so much in this movie to take you away from the meaning. The substance itself is an injectable. It's you draw it up, you inject it, and then there's something similar to TPN, which as a nurse, that's total parental nutrition. It's something that's given in through the veins, or sometimes it can be through the nose, in different ways. But all of that checks out. My problem is the average person does not know how to do anything Demi Moore was doing in this movie, injecting whatever into her vein. There was no instruction booklet. It was literally one sentence things. Use the substance. Swap every 7 days. What swap? What are you talking about? Like there wasn't an instructional video. She gets to the place. It looks nice. There wasn't just like a bench for her to sit on in a video that went over what the substance was. It was a guy who was less than helpful, which is pretty accurate for how most phone operators interact with people nowadays. She called and, did you do it? You didn't? Sucks for you. Click. I mean, that's kind of what you expect nowadays anyway. But there was no clarification on anything. We're just supposed to, as the audience, just assume that she understands fully what she needs to do for all of these situations, that she understands fully the importance of hooking up these feed bags to the body that's passed out. She didn't act horrified when she's birthed out of her own back, which I think anybody who just birthed out of another human being fully conscious as an adult would probably have some questions other than just to curiously look at the body in the floor and then start suturing it back together. Again, how did she know to do that? Where was her spine in all of this? Nothing made sense. Why are they connected in a way where she beats the crap out of herself in the floor at the end, kicking the crap out of her until she basically dies, and now she starts to die? Like, what? Explain why there's some kind of psychic connection between them to where damage to one happens to the other. I get her finger going back because she's stealing time from Demi Moore. So I get that the time she's stealing is forcing her to age. That makes perfect sense to me. um, in a nonsensical movie, but it makes you've got 2 hours and 21 minutes. Take away some of the gratuitous dancing, the gratuitous nudity, and explain the story. Explain what is what the substance is. That's the whole premise behind the previews. That's the whole premise behind the movie is the substance. It's called The Substance. Explain how the substance works, or at least give the viewer a little bit to make you think, okay, now I can understand how Demi Moore wasn't quite as shocked or was able to do some things in this movie that she shouldn't have otherwise been able to do. Um, so I feel like they missed the mark because they were too busy trying to um, create some kind of aura of this um, the beauty standard thing, but they didn't do a good enough job explaining things to where you would care. I mean, you start to care about Demi Moore's character because you realize she is aging out of her industry. She's being thrown away. So you start to, but before you get a chance to fully care about her, she's already moved on. And now here's Sue, who's a turd. I mean, to be honest, she's this, she's a selfish, self-absorbed version of Demi Moore. And so you don't care about her. You obviously don't care about Dennis Quaid. So there's not really any reason to care about these people. And if you're trying to tell a story that has meaning in society, you need to do a better job of one, explaining what you're doing, and two, making you care about the people involved. You get to the end where she's the monster, basically. And at that point, I'm like, so did we not know how to end the movie? So we're just going to go for full shock value and spray blood all over everybody like a Guar concert? Is that what we do now? Because we don't know how to end. I mean, you steal a scene from Deadpool and have her, instead of stapling, she glues Demi Moore's picture on her face as if that's going to be, oh, look, it's all fine. She has a boob coming out of the side of her head and Demi Moore's face under part of the dress. But she taped a picture of her face over her, so it'll be good. And then you have the women there, which I'm assuming this is some kind of network TV, but they're all topless again. I don't know. The movie just missed so many cues for me, that it just was inexcusable. I get what they were trying to do. I see the potential there. I just feel like they misfired over and over to the point that, like I said, you just didn't care. At least I didn't. I didn't care. I did learn something about this genre, though, that I hadn't heard or learned before when I was pulling up the synopsis. And this falls under something called body horror, which this is listed as a satirical body horror. But body horror is a subgenre of horror fiction that intentionally showcases grotesque or psychological disturbing violations of the human body or of another creature. So I didn't know that.
I thought we X'd out having to read stuff like that. Is that in your notes? Is that handwritten? Damn it. Okay.
Yeah,
have you ever seen The Fly?
No.
Oh, okay. That's like the prime body horror. Okay, I was curious. I didn't know.
Probably haven't seen any Cronenberg movies.
Yeah.
Was he? Was Scanners?
Yes, that's body
I've
horror.
seen that.
That's definitely
Okay.
Yep.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like I said, this movie just like halfway through, I was like, I hate this film. Like I hate it because it is telling something important. It just does such a terrible job that by the end of it, I don't care. I was ready. I was just ready for it to be over, and I was ready for her story to end because I didn't care. But yeah, Erica, our guest, what are your thoughts now that I have thoroughly crapped all over the film?
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that is quite the review. Totally opposite of what I felt. I felt like I don't know if men felt this way, but me personally, I felt like the film was like a giant mirror, and I was seeing how badly we treat our bodies and how badly we want to be perfect, and the lengths that especially women, not excluding men, will go to reach what they feel is perfect or what they feel society thinks is perfect. I could immediately sympathize with Demi Moore. Not a huge fan of her either. She's all right, but I do feel like you were correct in saying that she's kind of experienced that young fame and kind of cast aside, out with the old and with the new type of thing. So she was perfect casting for this movie. But I could definitely sympathize with her because I felt like her versus Sue was more of like how women feel going into menopause, and that whole my body's changing, I don't want it to change, I want to feel young. I myself have had a disease where I did go through that at in my 30s, early 30s. Definitely not fun. But to experience getting older so young was quite the trauma. So, yeah, and I agree that Dennis Quaid, amazing. He was probably my favorite to watch. Just totally hated him, yet loved him. Um, and the reason I felt like they were naked the whole time was just to really drive the point home of how women view their bodies, young and old. And you could really start to see how Sue was so disgusted. Like, I could just see and feel the way that she felt about Demi Moore's body, and that it was gross and that she was gross. And then Demi Moore's, or Elizabeth, I should say, Elizabeth's jealousy towards her being young, though they were the same person. I don't really know. That part was confusing to me too. Um, how they were the same person yet not, but they were still connected yet not. That was interesting. Um, but the whole Hollywood, I felt like this movie was basically a movie about Hollywood, about what people go through, women go through. I used to study back in high school, I know, a long time ago, but one of my favorite elective courses was film literature. And back in Marilyn Monroe's days, MGM Studios owned those actresses, and they told them how they wanted them to look, how they or who they wanted them to possibly date and be seen with. Um, so that evolution, it it went from, men controlling women. I'm just gonna assume MGM was ran by mainly men, but controlling them, to later on women thinking, um, like having your own choices, but not. You know what I mean? Like,
Kind of like Judy Garland, where I mean, she was
yeah,
literally slapped by the director of a
yeah,
movie for acting like a woman and
yeah,
basically feeding her cigarettes and pills to keep her up and pills to put her to sleep so that she could do whatever they needed her to do whenever they needed her to do it.
yeah. But now you're psychologically controlled. Well, that's how it seems. To go by what society is telling you to look like. For women, I think that's traumatizing. And the whole experience Elizabeth had, was traumatic. And where she lived, all the glass around, I felt like she was living in like a glass box. Um, and we were just viewing her downfall, of course. Um, I did like that they threw in a man's, he was going through the same thing with the substance. And you had said, one of you had said it's kind of a play on Ozempic. I did take Ozempic, but that was way before it became a mainstream weight loss medication. Um, I was put on it for diabetic reasons, and I remember meeting a woman at work that said she was on Ozempic, and I was like, "Oh, are you diabetic? What was your A1C?" And she said, "Oh, no, 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 I'm taking it for weight loss." And so I talked to my endocrinologist, "Is this a weight loss drug?" And he said, "It's an experimental weight loss drug, but I will never prescribe it as such. It is for diabetics. And people that are not diabetic taking this, there are huge risks." And then seeing that kind of become like the number one weight loss for men and women, um, and knowing his warning about the side effects. And of course, we're starting to see the side effects of it. So I did not pick up that that was kind of a play on Ozempic, but that's good. But yeah, I think that. Sorry, I have no notes, by the way. Elena was telling me, "Oh, I took notes," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't take any notes. This is all from what I'm remembering, what Ian and I had discussed, and how I felt watching the movie." Um, I did think it was a fantastic movie. I really think that it drove home how women feel trying to be perfect. And there was a time where I had this image of what I wanted to look like and how I wanted to act. And of course, I never, you know, achieved that because it's just, it, as you get older, it's just so crazy to think that I needed to mold myself for society and how they think a woman should look. Um, I think that Pamela Anderson, it's really sad that she has now decided to appear on red carpets without a stitch of makeup. And some women are applauding her, but the number of comments talking about how ugly she looks is just wow. That just shows how brainwashed we all are.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I kind of am in the middle. So I didn't hate it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I understood Kellen's points. Erica, I definitely understand your points. And it's one of those movies that as I was watching it, all I could think was David Cronenberg should have made this in the 80s. This is like the movie that he would have made, like, in my opinion, he would have just elevated this thing so much higher. I think that's my biggest complaint of the movie is like so much in the movie, uh, I feel like is similar to the work that he's done, which we were talking about through text, like The Fly, Videodrome, Dead Ringer, so many movies. And I just feel like with his films, he's able to take like a body horror concept, but really put a cinematic style and story to it. It's just so, it's like legendary. And that was the thing that was missing for me with this movie was just that I think that they gave like a glossy like front to it. You know, it's pretty, it's Hollywood. They're shooting it a certain way. It's satirical. It's over the top. You've got Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp, which is oh my god, it's fucking terrible. I see why they did what they did. I totally get it. I just would have preferred it to be more like classical film look. I just think that that's kind of where I wish they would have done it differently. Um, you can see all of the homage to like The Shining. They're using the fisheye lens when they're doing close-ups. They've got the red and white walls. You hear 2001: A Space Odyssey when the monster at the end like walks onto the stage. So there's a lot of like Stanley Kubrick, The Shining, 2001 homage there. Yeah, it's a very disgusting, gross movie. Oh my God, when she's pulling the chicken wing out, it's so nasty. Kellen, you were talking about the body swapping. I didn't think about that. I mean, I can understand what you're saying. It is weird that they didn't just get dressed after the first time because then they just have to stick a needle in, right? Unless it has to go through the back, which I could see that maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's a nit. I understand what you're saying though. Either way, um, I know that originally Ray Liotta was cast as Dennis Quaid's character, and he passed away, so they recast for Dennis Quaid. The Elizabeth Sparkles thing, that's supposed to be, from what I've read, that's supposed to be Jane Fonda. So like Jane Fonda, she's an actress. She's led her a fitness guru. So that was kind of like a take on her, what she was like in the 80s. Um, there's things in the movie you can definitely nitpick, and like the thing that I noticed at first, which is so silly, it's such a silly detail, but like when she gets the substance, the USB, and she plugs into her TV and it auto plays, I was just like, I can't stand how stupid Hollywood is. Like that does not happen. TVs are not that intelligent. They don't autoplay USB devices like that. Like I just Hollywood is like one of those things where you have all these writers who they understand concepts and stories, but like they have so many small things they overlook that they just don't know anything about. Like technology, AI, they're just stupid. They assume it's like one thing when really it's a very gray level argument. I won't go into that, but yeah, I
Can anybody,
don't.
can anybody guess what field John works in?
Yeah, I work in IT, and I can tell you that AI is not the devil like Hollywood makes it out to be. But so yeah, I just stuff like that kind of it's nitpicky, I know. It's very much like older movies like The Wasp Woman. There's an 80s movie called The Rejuvenatrix, which is just this really weird body horror movie. It's about an actress. She takes the shot and she gets younger, and then she soon has to start feeding on brains. And it's pretty gross. It's very similar to this, only there's not two splits. It's just the one actress, and she turns into a monster. It's definitely got a lot of the Cronenberg vibes. It's kind of a lot of Frank Henenlotter vibes too. That's probably more of what I thought towards the end of it was that there was a lot of like Henenlotter type vibes, that gross factor. Um,
Yeah, she took him and Cronenberg and just kind of molded them into a ball.
exactly. And it was a lot of like if you're a fan of Screaming Mad George, he's like an 80s special effects artist, kind of like a lot of that kind of nasty, gross practical effects. Um, I did think it was interesting the caller when they're calling the substance, they're calling the person on the line. So I just every time I heard that, I kept thinking maybe that was like Satan. Because I just thought like maybe it's like this deal with the devil, right? So they're getting this deal to look younger, and he's like they're making a pact with him, and he's on the other line. Maybe that's not what they meant for it to be, but I just kind of saw it as like this, I guess, Faustian type pack or whatever. Demi Moore is awesome in this movie. She's like, I think she acts better in this movie than I've ever. I mean, she's not a bad actress, but I've never seen her act like this well, especially at the end when she really starts to transform. Margaret Qualley, a good actress. She really didn't have much to do in this. She's kind of just there to be like the pretty younger version. She's a good actress though, but you know, it's hard. Demi Moore just kind of outshined everybody, and I think Dennis Quaid it was great as just this creepy older like executive guy. It kind of also reminded me a little bit of the movie Antiviral, which is a Brandon Cronenberg movie. It had a similar like glossy type look to it. But yeah, overall, I did like it. I didn't love it. The ending is way too much. I agree with you, Kellen. There, the ending, I was just like, oh my god, it's like, come on, right? But yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Yeah.
It was
So
like a little baby shunting there towards the end. I appreciate that. Kellen, I assume you watched this with headphones.
Watch the movie? No.
No? Okay. I was going to say maybe it would hit you a little bit differently if you didn't have that directly into your ear, but that's not the case.
No, I watched it on my phone and it was still too much.
That's funny. Because, you know, TJ hates flashing lights and things like he can't watch anything like that. I'm fine with anything. Just don't kill an animal. We're good. I didn't think about it because it's just not how I operate when I watch things. Kellen mentioned it, the reasons he didn't like this. And when I look back and I was thinking back on that while everybody else was talking, I'm like, you know, that's the problem. This is a 2-hour, 9-minute movie, and you don't know the rules. You don't know any rules. So they can get away with whatever they want. I didn't care for that when I look back on it, because you don't know why does it come out of the back? How do they know how to do this? Like, and I also understand it's satirical. It's supposed to be that way. But yeah, with it being a 2-hour movie, they should have had a little bit more substance in the rules. I would say that was not intended. But it reminded me kind of like of Drop Dead Gorgeous meets Reanimator. I got that vibe from it. Reanimator's an obvious connection because the substance itself is neon. But I enjoyed it. Demi Moore, like Kellen, I think I've never thought about her as being stiff. Now I do. When I look back, I'm like, yeah, she is a little stiff. She doesn't do anything for me. She was fine in this. I am a Margaret Qualley fan. If anyone else hasn't seen Drive Away Dolls, watch Drive Away Dolls. She's great in that. But you're right. She didn't really have to do anything. She just had to be there and look pretty. I like body horror. David Cronenberg's probably one of my top 5 directors of all time. Like, I love that man. I think he's working on something right now. So I was already kind of into the idea. Also, and I feel slightly bad. So I'm pretty sure this is TJ's favorite movie of the year, horror movie of the year. And we're doing this episode without TJ. And I'm like, when we decided to do this, I'm like, oh man, he's going to be mad. But I think we just kept talking and that text kept getting further and further and further away. So he ended up missing it and found out yesterday when we were talking about it. But He's at Disneyland, so whatever. But TJ loved this movie. He hyped it up for me. I think it's in the 90s on the tomato meter, at least on the critic side. But overall, I enjoyed it. I like gross movies like that. There were a few scenes. The kitchen scene was a little tough, but like the other things didn't really gross me out. That was like the biggest one. But I like these movies where they're satirical and they're supposed to make us kind of almost laugh. And then we feel guilty for laughing because we look at the subject matter and we're like, okay, this really is an issue in our country. Like I sent you guys a picture today of what a banana that was duct taped that went for $6.2 million at auction. That's where we are as a society. So whenever there's a movie that pokes at that, I enjoy it. Other than that, everything else has been said. We can go around and give our rankings. We can close up shop and then go to bed. So I'll go first. I think I might have originally given this a 4. Watching it again, listening, thinking, I'm going to drop mine to a 3.5. I do think it's a lot of fun. It's, and I've told Lindsay this before, like when we're watching Harry Potter and she points something, I'm like, they're in another world. Like they're wizards. Like that's okay. That stuff happens. So it's kind of how you have to go into this movie too. It's just kind of unhinged, but I give it a 3.5. Kellen?
Yeah, and just sitting here, I was thinking about it. Like the whole premise is her being a exercise person. I didn't put the Jane Fonda together, but that makes perfect sense. But that's such an 80s thing, and this is such a modern movie. If you were just going to go in one direction or the other, why not just fully commit to one? Why couldn't she be an aging influencer or something that would actually have made sense for her to be other than somebody that's doing aerobics that hasn't been done since the 80s, since Jane Fonda and Denise, whatever her name was, that used to have the VHS tapes you could buy. That shows my age. But yeah, for me, like I said, it just the message is such an important one. Again, being a girl dad, it's very important that people need to learn body positivity in a positive and healthy way. Not because you're told you're supposed to be body positive, but because you realize your worth is beyond somebody else's eyes. So the message, I give a 5. It's definitely important in today's culture with the internet being so important. But as a movie, 2.
That's the score. All right, Erica.
I actually give this movie a 4. I really, really like the message. And the fact that it's a horror movie, even better. Yeah, I didn't really see too much wrong with it. The ending maybe a little much, but it was kind of comical to me. Body horror, never heard of that before. Ian had to explain that to me. He said he never thought that I would watch a body horror movie. And I was like, I've never heard of that before. I don't know what you're talking about. The pulling of the teeth, yeah, that got me. And anytime a movie can get me like that, where I'm holding a pillow over my face saying, stop it, that's worth that's worth a point. So yeah, I give it a 4, even for that ridiculous Quentin Tarantino-like ending.
Real quick, she mentioned the tooth thing. I forgot to mention that. Why are you going to pick yourself apart? You just had a tooth fall out. Why are you going to go ahead and rip 2 more out and then pull a fingernail off later? Like, stop pulling at yourself, lady.
Yeah, I hate teeth and fingernail stuff so much.
That's my eyes. Eyes are my thing.
Eyes, those are my eyes.
But if you think about it, that's every woman's fear. Their teeth falling out, not being able to smile for everybody, not being able to smile perfectly. And then the nail thing, I couldn't watch that either. I was like, no, stop it. I can watch heads getting cut off all day, but I cannot watch that. It's a real fear. And that was another part that got me, was those 2 right there. And hair.
I ripped my own toenail off when I was 15 with a pair of pliers because I had a blood blister under it. So it doesn't bother me.
Damn it, Kellen.
I couldn't.
Jeez. Thanks for that nugget.
Yeah, my dad was like, what happened? I was like, I pulled my toenail off with a pair of pliers. He's like, you're an idiot.
Well, there's the reel for this week. All right, John, what do you give it?
Yeah, it's it's not a multiple watch movie. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, but it is a good movie. It's sad how, you were talking about she didn't question things, Kellen. Unfortunately, that's just like how people are, especially people obsessed with beauty. And like you're saying, Erica, women are put in this position where they feel like based on the media and our culture, they have to set the standard. So a lot of people would do that. They would just inject themselves whatever they can do to get this fountain of youth to be. It's sad. I mean, that part honestly is real.
All those weight loss pills. How
Yeah.
many are there? All over.
Right.
Well, and like you said, they're not weight loss pills. They're pills for other conditions, and they're being used as off-label.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's the reason we have an FDA. People want to make. I'm with making the government smaller in certain areas, but we need oversight for that kind of stuff because drug companies would just push whatever out and then see what happens. and that's what we're going to end up having with Wegovy and Ozempic and all of these miracle weight loss medications. 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to see what the real true effects were, and it's going to be too late for a lot of people.
Y'all, and I only lost 5 pounds on that. I don't know how these people are losing so much. How much are you injecting? Is what I
think it's more about if your body already naturally produces insulin, then this tricks your metabolism into kind of, because I mean that's ultimately what weight loss is a calorie deficit, and if you can trick your body into thinking you're in a calorie deficit and kicking your metabolism up, then you burn calories. Your body eats fat to when you're not eating, and so if you can trick your body into go ahead and burning fat and thinking that you're not eating,
someone's learned something this episode, guys.
Yeah,
someone has truly learned something.
So I give it overall a 5 out of 5. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. No, it's 3.5 out of 5. I'm right with Jay. It's 3.5. It's something that is worth seeing, but I think in the context of like this story, I just feel that other people could have done it way better. But yeah.
So that puts us as a 3.2. So we'll call it a 3. And yeah, still, I'm looking back. I have rules written down in circle. That's like my third least favorite thing that they can ruin in movies, behind dialogue and likable characters. Which I didn't even say that. You really weren't rooting for anybody, were you? Like
No.
I guess Demi Moore to a degree, but that's another thing I don't like. Like, you got to make the characters likable, and it totally didn't. But I still enjoyed the film, and I stand by my 3.5. So, that's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram. Join our Facebook group, TikTok, and we have a playlist on Amazon Music, updated weekly, featuring artists and songs from the movies that we watch. Erica, thank you so much for hanging with us.
Thank you for having me.
I messaged Ian. We'll have to get him on sometime soon too.
Oh yeah.
We can't do Troll 2. Go ahead and tell him now. No Troll 2. Been there, done that. He's gonna have to pick another movie.
Shirt.
Damn.
All right, signing off. I'm Jay with Erica, John, and Kellen. And until next time,
keep it spooky.
and
you
remember,
beat me to it, you motherfucker.
You are one. You are one.
You mentioned like your rules, dialogue. The movie that gets away with having just some awful dialogue, but everyone still loves it.
Every 90s comedy.
I mean, most of the original Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars: A New Hope. There's some dialogue in there that's just trash, but that is a beloved movie.
Well, you see how he did the prequels. The prequel writing is horrible.
So bad.
Like episode 2 and 3. Oh.
You made it.
You're gonna say Quiet Place.
Yeah, what Quiet Place doesn't really rely on a lot. No, Quiet Place doesn't really rely on a lot of dialogue. It's more.
No, I was joking.
Sexiest man alive.
For that reason, okay.
Sexiest man alive.
Is he? Yeah.
You want a little nugget? Who won last year? If you don't already know.
Somebody I didn't agree with.
Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick Dempsey? Really?
Really?
Yeah, and that's what I said, because we had a trivia question. It's like, who won it last year? And I don't remember who we said. I think we said Pedro Pascal, because that would make the most sense.
That
right?
seems like a 2005 thing.
Yeah. I think it's because Thanksgiving got him back into the limelight somehow.
What?
Weird. That's weird.
Well, or were they making up for not putting him when he was McDreamy? Is that what they were doing?
Yes.
Well, we missed it.
Maybe.
We missed the boat in Grey's Anatomy. I'm sorry, Patrick.
I still watch that show, and I feel sorry for anyone that does, because it is like unbelievably terrible now. My wife and I
still watch.
My wife started in 2019. I got into it, and we just hate watch it now. Like the past few seasons, we just watch it just to laugh every episode. It's so
I've
bad.
never seen an episode, and I'm
Me
not
either.
interested.
I've worked in
Yeah.
2 separate hospitals, and the amount of doctor deaths that have happened from car wrecks or the most random things is a lot lower than that show would make you believe.
Bravo.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
Erica,
bad.
thanks again.
Thank you.
I'll tell you when this is dropping real quick. Substance, December 9th. So you're going to be sandwiched between Bria Grant, Friday the 13th, and Terrifier 3.
Nice.
And don't feel bad about liking a movie that I didn't like. That seems to be a recurrent theme with guests.
I mean, we've listened. We know.
He's a
She's
hater.
the one
He's
that-
a
She's
hater.
one of the. She's someone who actually listens.
No, so this is Kellen's the one that doesn't like anything. TJ sometimes, Jay likes everything, and John is who we agree with usually the most on.
I was thinking about that. I'm like such a horror. I'm a horror whore because I'm so easy to please.
Mhm.
I mean, it's hard to really piss me off. I
Mhm.
actually text John earlier and I'm like, hey, have you seen Skinamarink? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, because I was going to suggest we do a quick Skinamarink episode tonight too, just to have one in the
man.
barrel. He's like, no, I will not watch that movie. I fucking
Yeah.
hated
You
that
could probably
movie. So
get
there are
banned.
movies out there that I cannot stand, but they're just few.
Other than Skinamarink, what is a horror movie that you can think of recently that you just absolutely hated?
Well,
Mousetrap.
here's the thing. I watch everything.
That was
Mousetrap was
bad.
I'll
garbage.
tell you
That was
something I
terrible,
watched
yeah.
because John bid on something on eBay. I was like, oh, I've never seen that movie. So I went and watched it. It's called The Ghost Dance. Spoiler alert, there's 2 Ghost Dance movies out there. And I watched the wrong fucking one. And I'm sitting here like, I fucking hate John. I hate John. Why is he bidding on this? And then I did a little bit more research. I'm like, I read the synopsis. I'm like, this is about Native Americans. These people were all white. This isn't right. It was black and white. So I watched the correct one today. But that movie I did detest. I really haven't watched one recently that I can't stand. That's a recent movie. I mean,
To be fair, what are the odds there's going to be 2 Ghost Dance films?
right. What are the odds?
I didn't like VHS Beyond, the new one. I was not a fan of that one. I don't know if I hated it. I
I've
just
not
didn't
seen
like
any
it.
VHS movie.
So here's the thing about that one, Kellen. The most fucked up segment was written by Justin Long.
Of course.
So there you go.
He has some kind of fetish about being shit on screen. There's something about him where I don't know if he just has so low self-esteem that he feels like he deserves to just have whatever the worst possible thing could happen to him in movies. Like, since he can't do it in real life, he can't cut his own face off. Hey, jeepers creepers, let me have my eyeballs plucked out and face off. Let
I
me
don't
have my
understand.
body
Let's be a walrus.
mangled in barbarian.
Right.
I don't understand where he came up with that idea. Also, the Beyond, I thought it was all aliens except that one, was it not?
That was the only weird story.
So
It was all
what's-
aliens, yeah.
That was stupid.
yeah.
That was stupid. You're going to do another one. You know you're going to do it. Save it. Make it all UFOs and aliens. Because when I was watching, I'm like, this is kind of cool that it's all the same, subgenre instead of, this is a monster, this is an alien, this is a disease, these are zombies. It was all aliens. And then they threw that one in there for some reason. It was the most fucked up one.
Oh,
And-
Smile 2. Oh my
That-
God.
I like
I cannot stand that series with a fiery passion of hell. I hate
Wow.
that series.
See, we didn't really care for the first one.
This one was
and
better.
all my horror friends are like, "Oh, the second one's so good. The first one was great, but the second one's good." Like, I didn't really like.
I watched the first one and I
Yeah.
just it was such a meh film. Like, it was not
Yes.
like, again, it's one of those movies that didn't bring anything I cared about to the screen. Like, it felt done. Like, okay, they're smiling at her, but other than that, the possession thing's been done. Like,
Yes, yes.
It was It
yes.
Follows.
yeah, it was
It
It Follows,
Follows.
except instead of sex, it was creepy smiling.
But I
thing.
did like 2 better. The girl, she was Jasmine in the
Yeah.
Aladdin live action. She was great.
What about the water bottle? Oh my
Kyle
God.
Gallner.
Like, what's with the water
love
bottle
Kyle
thing?
Gallner.
Like,
I
Yeah.
love Kyle.
Kyle Gallner's fantastic. I'm sad he was only in it for a
now
minute.
that opening was cool. I will say the opening Smile
See,
2.
you stopped. That's the one you said you stopped after 20 minutes and started fast forward. So I backed up
Yeah.
and said, okay, I'm not going to say I love the opening, which I did because John's going to make fun of it.
So I got like 20, 30 minutes in and then I 2x'd it and I was kind of watching and I was just like,
It is too long. It's too long.
Yeah.
And if you have that option, John, you should watch Skinamarink, but only if you can watch it on 8X.
Yeah, right. Make it 5 minutes.
Just watch it on 8X and imagine about every 2 to 5 minutes something goes.
Oh, I found another copy of Lucky today at McKay's. Bria Grant's movie that she says she's never seen.
Nice.
So I said,
That's
okay.
fun.
I told her I would send her mine. She's like, no. And I was like, hey, I literally found a brand new one unopened today. Do you want to? I haven't heard back from her yet. But... All right. Erica, thanks again.
Thank
We'll
you.
Yes,
tag
thank
you.
you.
All that fun stuff.
Thanks so much.
Bye, boys.
Later.
Suck it.